In this video, I'm making Frost into a true ice god, where he can freeze an entire map, armor strip enemies, grant himself and allies overguard, grant his weapons additional critical bonus, have infinite ammo on his main weapon, and even make Breach Surge deal red critical damage. What's good, folks? It's Nightmare here with a new Warframe video coming at you with an ultimate powerhouse of a Frost build. All this was a simple suggestion by a viewer on stream. By the way, you should come on over.
They can red crit? Is that allowed?
Frost is clearly one of those underestimated frames, and many people just either see him as a defense bot or just there to freeze things. I mean, he does those things pretty well. Let's be honest, his first and second ability are not that great. His first ability is still going to be there just to pop the ice bubble, and keeping the first ability does offer you the option to use it alongside its augment, Freezing Force, just to give you that cold elemental damage buff. That is an option. I will be replacing Ice Wave with the Helminth ability called Breach Surge from Wisp. The only reason to use this ability is to add on and spread damage, while also offering the pleasing Warframe aesthetic of seeing red crits. Other Helminth options for the build are Nourish, Roar, or Zanta's Whisper, depending on what weapon and loadout you want to use. So the reason why Breach Surge is able to red crit is all to do with Frost's passive augment, Biting Frost. This augment grants you 200% crit chance and crit damage on frozen enemies. You can freeze enemies with the first, third, and fourth ability. And since we want this damage to be more consistent, I will be using the fourth ability to trigger a mass AoE freeze. And another great thing about his fourth ability, Avalanche, is that it can permanently armor strip enemies with 168% strength. But this crit chance and crit damage is only supposed to affect your weapons. However, Breach Surge and some other abilities also function like weapons, hence why it's able to gain the increase in critical bonus. However, the abilities need to inherently have some critical attributes. Not only does the fourth ability, Armor Strip, freeze enemies to provide you the crit bonuses, but it also has an augment that grants you and allies Overguard when you deal damage with the ability. And his Overguard modifier scales with strength and enemies hit. So the best way to scale the Overguard gain is to have a decent amount of ability strength and range. Now, with the ability portion out of the way, let's discuss our main DPS weapon, which isn't an Incarnate or a Kuva weapon, but a modular primary weapon that is AoE and has infinite ammo that you can spam and never have to worry about running out. It is the primary Tombfinger, a weapon that you never see people talk about, and I have made 2 synergies with this weapon in the past. But the weapon does require additional buffs to be used comfortably, and this is why it's a Warframe and weapon synergy, things that people take for granted. It is built from the Tombfinger, Palmaris, and Splat Loader. With this combination, it will turn into a rifle that has 2 firing modes, a quick tap and a charge shot. The main thing we want is the fully charged shot because it has the better stats, and to have consistent charge shots we need a lot of fire rate. So speed trigger, vial acceleration along with reinforced bond are going to be used. Unfortunately, there is no space for arcane acceleration. The arcane slots are already filled with mandatory arcanes for the build to function. Our companion of choice is the Nautilus, used for its consistent grouping with its Cordon Precept equipped. This does have a cooldown, but we are able to reduce the cooldown thanks to Manifold Bond. Now, for those wondering, how can you utilize Reinforced Bond with a companion like Nautilus? It doesn't have the required amount of shields. Well, if you read the mod carefully, I know it's hard asking Warframe players to read. Reloading restores 150 overshields to your companion, which grants Nautilus a total of 1,475 shields. And this is what's able to boost my fire rate on all my weapons by 60%. These overshields are at risk of getting destroyed. However, with Frost's Overguard, yeah, you see where we're going with this? You're able to protect your companion pretty well. The Overguard on the companion makes it easier to maintain the reinforced bond pretty well. And now, how am I reloading my weapon to buff Reinforced Bond? Because my primary weapon doesn't reload. It's easily done by using a fast-firing secondary weapon with the holster reload mods. I'm using the Furus, but you're free to use any other weapon that can equip eject magazine and has a decent magazine and fire rate to dump ammo and then holster. There will be occasions where enemies will completely destroy your companion's Overguard because it's something you can't control, but you can easily get that Overguard and overshields back. So let's break down the basic gameplay loop. You press 4, breach surge, and shoot. That's it, nothing over the top. It's a very comfortable loadout. Now with that out of the way, let's take a look at the Frost build. Starting off with the Archon Shards, 2 Tau Forge Reds for the 30% strength increase, 3 Ambers, 2 regulars for the casting speed, but however, if you want to make them Tau, you can, and 1 other Tau Amber for the 75% bonus energy on orb pickup. Moving on to the Arcanes, I'm using Molt Augmented for the 60% strength gain after 250 kills, which is easily done, and Arcane Energized for the juicy energy regen on orb pickup. Since we have 30% from the shards and 60% from the arcanes, now for the mods. And the strength mods are actually going to be odd. Growing power in the aura for the 25% strength increase when you proc a stats effect, and precision intensify. Precision Intensify will grant my 4th ability 90% strength. This is important because I'll be topping up my range to the max with Overextended, Stretch, Augur Reach, and Cunning Drift. I know, no Prime Surefooted because we have Overguard. This grants my 4th ability insane amounts of range to freeze a massive group of enemies and tagging a lot of enemies for the decent Overguard. And the more strength I build up, the stronger this ability gets, especially with the 4th ability Augment Icy Avalanche that grants me Overguard. Prime Flow for the large energy pool, and Streamline for the efficiency to reduce the energy cost, as you'll be using the 4th ability alongside Breach Surge quite a lot. However, if you feel like using something like Equilibrium, you can. And finally, Biting Frost, the augment for the bonus crits on frozen enemies. With the 4th ability base duration, you have 8 seconds and 6 seconds on Breach Surge. With the Frost build out of the way, let's take a look at our Norfleet, which is the Tombfinger Kid Gun. The build is pretty basic. It doesn't have any faction damage because you're just going to be one-shotting everything. I will be using a rank 4 critical delay because I don't want to lose that much fire rate, and we're still over 100% crit chance with this mod. It is modded for raw viral damage because enemies are armor stripped, and I'm adding on to that with the fire rate mods, Vile Acceleration, and Speed Trigger. Prime Firestorm to increase its explosion radius. For my base damage, I am running Primary Merciless, and because this is a kit gun, I have 2 arcane slots. Primary Merciless is going to be my base damage mod, and Pax Charge is just going to be there to turn this weapon into a battery, making it have infinite ammo. That's the trick. And for the companion, it's the Nautilus, as you know. Make sure to have these mods in order. Cordon is going to be the main thing that you want so it can group up enemies. Assault mode so it can attack enemies. We want it to do a lot of things so it can trigger Mystic Bond. This way I can get a free cast on an ability. Manifold Bond is going to be there to reduce the cooldown of all my other companion abilities. Notice I don't have anything like Guardian or Shield Recharge for my Warframe because I don't need that, since I have consistent Overguard. And for the weapon, I'm using the Hellstrom. Heavy Caliber is just there to make it less accurate so it spreads the pellets, and it's modded for viral heat radiation with additional fire rate. For the focus school, I'll be using Maturai. Maturai is the best focus school in the entire game. It offers you power transfer for the additional casting speed when you perform a transference. And let's not forget Sling Strength, which grants you 40% additional strength for 20 seconds. All these are great options to have. On top of that, if you're fighting any type of Thrax units or anything that requires you to deal amp damage, you do have Contamination Wave and Void Strike, which is insanely beneficial to have. Alright folks, this is the ultimate Frost setup, using Breach Surge and his 4th ability to armor strip, freeze enemies, and grant yourself Overguard and crazy crits. So folks, that has been it for me. I do hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. And if you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, a peace. Bye-bye now.